Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide. Today, finally, we are getting to the in-depth review of the Royole RoWrite 2. My apologies that it took so long to get to the in-depth review of this device, but because of the shoulder injury and the arm injury, I actually had 2 attempts to do this review, but every single time it proved to be too difficult because I simply couldn't write. But now, this was the attempt number 3, so lucky number 3, and I was able to write not that much, but enough to actually conclude the review and show you guys what the device is all about, what it can do, how it does, and all of that kind of stuff. So let's dive into the Royole RoWrite 2. Alright, so here we have the Royole RoWrite 2, and as described in the unboxing, this is a fairly unique device, so it's most definitely not an e-reader. This is basically a transcriber, if you will. So you will be, you have the ability to actually use a normal paper notebook, right? And write your normal notes as you normally would in a notebook with a pen that writes like ink, right? So it's a proper physical pen, proper physical paper, and the trick is in this bit here, which is this aluminum section here. That's where the RoWrite actually is, and a big sensor in the back here. So what it actually does is it captures your physical notes in real time or offline after the fact, depending on what you choose, and transcribes them automatically into digital form, allowing you to do additional things afterwards with those notes. So basically it eliminates the need for scanning at the very least, but it also opens up a lot more other possibilities. So now let's figure out, so that's basically what the RoWrite is. It is a modern digital notebook. It is not an e-book, it is not an e-note-taking device or anything like that. It's simply trying to modernize note-taking, physical note-taking in physical notebooks for the 21st century and the 2021. And I think that this is a very important premise to keep in mind when thinking about this product, because it's way too easy for us to try and compare it to, I don't know, Remarkable 2, Books Note Air. And I've seen actually videos comparing that, and I disagree with that because they're simply two very different products. And that's something that I'm going to try and explore and can explain and present to you so that you can understand better what this product is meant to be. Now first, let's talk about the design and the build quality. Well, from the unboxing, you remember that I was quite impressed by how well built and how nicely designed RoWrite 2 is. First of all, we have this synthetic leather cover, which is of a very, very high quality. You have lovely embossed logos here and on the back as RoWrite. And even on the insides, you also have that. Once you open it up, you have this notebook, of course, and the notebook can be taken out, which is not something that I'm going to do here. You can actually check that out in the unboxing video if you want. The reason why I'm not going to do it is because I need to continue with the review and I don't want to bug around with that, because it's not a super easy process. It's nothing difficult. It's just a little bit of a hassle. So that's one of the things that I'm not too keen about as far as the design goes. The process could have been made a little bit easier because right now it's a little bit kind of push and pull. The brains of the RoWrite 2 are here. So this here is an aluminum body, as you can clearly see, and it's a very simple affair. At the top we have a power button which has a multifunction of powering on and flipping pages. More on that a little bit later. We have an indication status light LED on the side which tells you are you on, what's going on, and is the device syncing or not. And at the bottom we have the USB-C for charging, and that's pretty much it. Here on the top we have magnetic areas here, so we have magnetics so that the pen just kind of snaps in, and you will notice that the pen has two metal rings and two metal contacts here, plus and minus. And once you pop it in, you can actually see a little red LED on the pen, which indicates that the pen is charging, and there we go, it has now charged fully to green. So the design is extremely elegant and very, very thought out. For a simple device like this, the ability to simply pop the pen back in, it automatically charges, it automatically puts itself where it needs to. You close the lid and the device will, after 5 seconds, automatically go to sleep. When you open it up, it wakes up. I mean, all of the details are there, and what I really like is that the cap is also magnetic on the pen itself, and also you can just snap it here and it stays. So all of these details, there's so many small real-world usability details that have gone into place that I really, really do appreciate as far as the RoWrite goes. So yeah, and you can just kind of snap it back in. So these things on its own, they seem small and not groundbreaking, but for a device like this, you know, just being able to do that, you know, just hold it and put it back in, continue writing, and snap it back in, and it does everything on itself. The polarity of magnets, everything just works. I really, really love that. So this side here, this is basically where the brain is. So that's where the CPU is, memory, and the battery and everything is. So that's basically the hardware of it. However, on the back side of the back cover, there is the heart of the device, which is their sensor. And that sensor that's in the back here is responsible for picking up your handwriting on top of the papers here and transmits it to the device, which in turn then transmits it back into the app and does everything else that you needed. Now, I have reached out to RoWrite regarding the durability of the sensor because it's in the back. So I asked them like how durable it is, and they say that they've purposefully designed it to be flexible so that it can withstand knocks, falls, and all that kind of stuff. So you are okay to do this, that's fine, because it's been, again, designed with that in mind, and it's been designed with real-world use in mind, sensor as well. These are all really, really good things as far as the design and the build quality goes. The build quality is fantastic as far as I'm concerned, and the design is, as I said, something that I really like. However, there are a couple of things that I think are not that good, some things that could be improved and should be improved. Number one thing, and I think this is a really big one, this is pretty much my biggest concern with the device, is that we only have a sensor on this side. There is no sensor on this side. Effectively, that means that even though you have a notebook which has, you know, double-sided pages, on the RoWrite 2, you can only use this gridded page. So you can only write and detect what's been written on the page that's facing the sensor down. Anything you write here will never get detected. So I think from a standpoint of reusability, you know, environmental concerns and cost concerns as well, you're kind of wasting half of your notebook because you're only able to use one side of the paper. So that's definitely a problem. Now, depending on what kind of notebook you're using, you should be able to also, you know, fill out the notebook in these pages, take it out, flip it around, and then fill out the pages on the other side. So that's one way of overcoming this issue, but the obvious problem is that then renders your notebook, physical notebook, if you're looking for your notes and you're going through it, then it makes it a little bit weird because you're reading in this direction, then you flip it, and then you read in the other direction. So it's not a two-sided paper. So definitely not an ideal solution, but it is something that you might do. The second negative point is that you cannot flip this around. So the way it's been designed, it's actually glued down here, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's something that I think is also a design problem, simply because very, very often I use my notebook in my lap. And in order to do that, you should be able to flip this over, hold it in one hand and write here. And as I can do with any other notebook. But with the RoWrite 2, we cannot do that. So for me, that's a limitation, because it limits the where you will be able to use the device, because it kind of requires a desk of some sort, and it requires a surface of this size. Now granted, that's not a big deal, so it's like an A4, wide A4 kind of a page, which is okay, but I believe that it's unnecessary, because if you want something portable, especially in meetings and everything, there's a lot of people who do tend to write with the notebooks in their laps, or while standing or anything like that. And I think that this is simply a missed opportunity. So those two, not having a sensor on the back to utilize both sides of the pages, and the inability to flip around, those would be the negative points as far as the design goes. As far as the build quality goes, everything looks absolutely fantastic. And as I said, majority of the things design-wise, I really, really love. I am absolutely in love with how modern this device is, yet how simple it is. So it's a really, really good balance, but it does lack those two key features as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so the majority of the review that I'm going to be doing here is going to be with the app open in real time, so that you can see how these things function, because the device itself is only, you know, a portion of the whole RoWrite experience, and a lot of it is has to deal with the RoWrite app. Now the app can be found on Android, iOS, Mac and PC. Almost any platform that you are using, you will be able to find the RoWrite app. The app and the product itself together, they are the actual product. Once you install the app, you need to create your RoWrite login account, and then you log in. And once you are logged in, you are presented with the front screen. Now, the very first time when you actually open up the app, the first thing that you have to do is to press this button here, which will have a different icon, which indicates the connection. It will be a small square kind of tablet thingy with a red cross, which means no synchronization. It's not linked to any device. Now, the linking or pairing with the RoWrite 2 is super easy. The only two things that you have to keep in mind is that for the app to actually recognize the device easily, it needs to have two permissions at the same time, which is both the Bluetooth and the GPS location. They need to be active, and the app has to have permissions to those. Once you do, all you do is click on the button, place the device very close to your RoWrite, wait a little bit, and it just shows, hey, there's your device, connect. Once you're connected, the light turns blue on the RoWrite 2, which indicates that we are powered on and connected to the app, and that's it. Now you're ready to go. The app itself has a few things that we need to kind of keep in mind, so I'm going to divide it into several sections so that you can actually kind of follow along, which will work as a tutorial. But I think it's very worth noting that if you go to settings, the app itself has a tutorials section, and these tutorials are really, really good, especially these three. So these, and these, they will probably cover pretty much exactly the same information that I'm covering here, so you can choose, you know, you can go back to them, and they're in a very, very good form. And I think it's an extremely smart thing to actually include it in such an ecosystem that it's part of your app and always at your fingertips. Now, while we're at the settings, You also have the version of the app, RoWrite device information, so you can see all of that kind of stuff, firmware update, battery, and you can change the device name if you so choose. Of course, feedback tutorial and contact us. On the top, you have also the access to your account information, where you can also cancel your account should you choose to do so, and that's pretty much it. In the middle, we have the store, which is the exact same store like on the website, but I find some things that are a little bit kind of off, like pricing of the RoWrite 2 pen. In this store, it says $249, which of course it's not. I think it's $30. And the RoWrite 2 replacement notebook, the 3-pack, I think costs $12, and here it says it's $29.9. So there's definitely some inconsistencies as far as the pricing in this one goes, and I would recommend shopping on the online store, not through this one. So this definitely needs to be fixed, but it gives you at least an overview of what accessories are available. Now, while we're talking about that, let's just cover. So the main accessories that you will probably need, or what you would want, are extra notebooks if you want the dedicated notebooks, but you can use any other notebook up to 6mm thickness, I believe. And you also have the ink refills if you need them, because the pen works like a normal pen. It's an ink pen, so it spends ink. We got that out of the way so that we can focus on the main stuff. Alright, so there are two main modes that you can use and synchronize the writing in. The first, the default mode, is the real-time writing, where you have both the app and the RoWrite connected, they're synced up, and then you're able to write in real time. So what you write here reflects here, we'll show that. And the second method is offline writing. RoWrite 2 is equipped with about, I believe, 16 megabytes of cache memory, so it's able to store some amount of information in it without being connected to the app or anything. And once you're done with the writing, the first time you connect, it actually syncs up and then flushes the cache memory so that it's all ready to take stuff in. So no, you do not have to write all the time when you're connected. It's able to store your written information in an offline manner as well, which is very cool. So first, let's cover the general overview here of the notebooks and the notebooks management. So it's very easy. You can just simply swipe, and the app is extremely responsive. Here are your notebooks, and the notebook management is super easy. Right now I just have 2 notebooks because I haven't written that much, but yeah, if you had more notebooks, you can use your frequently used notebooks, and then you can use this button here, manage. Then you can reorient and reposition. If you had more, I could just put this one out of my frequently used ones, or here, and rearrange. The one that is actually locked is my default notebook, and you can set any notebook to be a default notebook like this here if you so choose. Very straightforward management, super easy to understand and super easy to deal with. Now, of course, you can access your notebooks from here as well. So everything works as I would expect it to be, and it's very, very intuitive. Once you open up a notebook, it's a very nice smooth animation. You're presented with the contents of the digital notebook. This plus button here is a way to add a new page. Okay, we'll get to that. Then we have the search function, where you can actually just type in a word, and in the search bar you can just write a word, and in real time it is converting your digitized handwritten notes and is searching through them. So it definitely has that ability to search through your handwritten notes. Next to it we have the settings, where you can actually choose which cover of the notebook you want, and you can name your notebook and decide if it's a default notebook or not. Very simple again. Now, when I press plus, it will automatically add a page to the end, so it will append the page to the end, and will be presented with the page view. So this is actually page edit view, and you can see that we have at the bottom, we have our color wheel, we have our eraser tool, we have our pen brush, and one click is to select it, the second click is to open up the options. For the pens, we have ink pen, graphite pen, and I guess a fine liner, and you can adjust opacity and the width for any of these three. And for the eraser, you can adjust eraser size or erase content, I believe, on the whole page. Next to it, we have the templates, where you can choose which template in the digital notebook you will have. So incidentally, this is the only template that the real default notebook has, the dot grid matrix, because you can have a grid or lines, and that kind of, makes sense. And these are the templates that you can choose from. Now we also have this option, more styles, coming soon, but what we don't have is an option to add our own styles. So I think that's something that's a missed opportunity for sure. So let's say I choose my template, tap out, and in the final icon here is the ability to insert images into your page, because you're able to combine stuff and make collages and all that kind of stuff. So those are your tools in the edit page mode. At the top you will have undo, redo, page, number, name, and of course the confirmation button. Now if I do confirmation button, I go out, and you can see here that the edit page, when I tap on it, it opens up this view where now I have some other options, and if I go into edit, then we go into the page writing mode. Now this is the part where it's actually confusing, that the notebook has 3 pages views. So that's something that you have to kind of keep in mind. We have our notebook view, or the notebook overview view, where you have your pages. Then you have your page view, so to speak, where you can actually, flip between pages, and you are able to actually zoom in on the content as well. So I can zoom in and then pan around with one finger, right? So I can definitely do that. And this page in view is really important because you have extra functionalities for the page itself that you're here. So what you can do, you can edit page, you can identify, which is basically translating into text to speech, which is super fast, right? More on that a little bit later. You can add a memo, written memo for that page, and you can actually play in kind of a animated fashion what you wrote, what you drew, and all of that. And this is something that you can also export as an MP4 file, which is pretty cool. So let's just go back. So those are the functions that you have. Now you can share the page, and you can also have a little bit of extra functionalities here in the 3 dots menu on the page view, where you can add keynotes, basically like a bookmark on the page. You can move the page somewhere, you can split the page into 2, and you can replace the brush that's being used to display these strokes on the page. Let's recap. We have the first view is the notebook overview. Then we have the page view, right? And then we have the edit view. Now, why is this important? Well, the edit view of the page is the only view where you can write, and more importantly, the view where you have to be in order to see the real-time synchronization work. So if you are in this view, the real-time synchronization won't work. If you are in a notebook view, the real-time synchronization will not work. This is how it's intended to work. We are hooked up, we are synchronized, we are blue on the line, we are in the page view, and now I can start my writing session, right? And as you can see, it's really precise, and it does things really well. Now let's say I don't like this kind of a pen that it's using, so I'm just gonna choose this pen, make it down to 3 pixels thickness, and maybe make it red if I wanted to. So now my writing is using the new brush settings. Very cool. So So now I can change it back to black, and so on and so forth. Now, there is no way to erase this and that it actually reflects the erasing here. Any erasing that you want to do has to be done digitally, because that's how it is. Now, you will see that I do not have a writing experience section here, simply because the writing experience is with a ballpoint ink pen on paper, and that's it. I just grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, and write on it, and that's how it feels. So this is basically it. That's what RoWrite 2 is all about. And you can see that it's tracking very, very clearly, and you can see that there's very little deformations compared to what I'm writing, and more importantly, you can also see where it's kind of tracking, right? So you can see this little dot, and it's now tracking where my pen is. Furthermore, as I'm writing, you will see that it's registering strokes by blinking the blue light, which is basically transmitting stuff to here. Now let's add a little drawing here. Yep, let's see how it handles a lot of strokes. Seems to be doing just fine. Yep, let's do a little bit of and some stuff here. Okay, put his hands in the pocket and be done with the stuff. Right, so doodling stuff also works, which is fine, but most importantly I wanted to doodle out so that we can have a full page and see how it works for the next page. Now I have filled out my page, right? And all you do is turn your page, right? Well, no. You need to turn your page, right? So let's just turn the page. But once you turn your page, you need to just press your button, power button, once. Once you tap it, it will blink twice and it will automatically add a new page here. And now I can continue writing. Okay, so this is something that's very, very important to remember. Depending on how your habits are, this is a habit that you will have to build. Really, really important to actually remember that. And I can see people getting used to this. So on the one hand, it's very easy to get used to, but on the other hand, I think it's equally easy to forget, especially if you're invested in what you're doing and you're just scribbling away and you flip a page, because you are essentially just writing on the paper with your pen, something that's very familiar to older generation, I believe, which I now belong to. And I believe that it's extremely easy to forget if you're in the moment to press that button. And if you do forget to press that button, basically what happens is, so let's just fill this out with some more stuff, just kind of blah, 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 and some trees, and some puffy clouds, and the sun, and shadows, and I don't know, whatever. It's like, oh, I'm mean, and I'm so super angry ninja. All right, so I have a doodle, right? And now I flip a page, and I was so immersed by that doodle that I continue writing, and I forgot to flip a page. I'm basically writing on top of my previous content. So this is why that button is so important. You absolutely have to get used to it. And yeah, as I said, I believe it's easy to overlook that, and you end up with something that there's no undo button. There's no undo button here. I forgot to flip the page. I'm screwed, right? Well, no. It has an option which is very, very cool, and that's where that playback function actually comes to play. So if you do get into a situation like this, what you can do is, let's now just go confirm here. So now I go into my page view, out of edit view into page view, and this is where we have an option of split. Okay, so if I press on split, okay, so the split pages will lose color, which is kind of weird, but basically what you get is a timeline scrubber, right? So I can scrub through my timeline when I was adding strokes. So this was still on the page, but this is where I started to add things on the new page. So I can just go back to here and click OK. There we go. These are going to be 2 pages. Generating page split successful. And now I have successfully added the page post fact. So you are not completely screwed if you forget to flip a page. It's just that you will add a little bit more work to it. But even if you forget like to turn pages for many strokes, you will still have that timeline and use that split function from the page view. So in page view, 3 dots and split function, and you just scrub the timeline where you were, what you were doing, click on split, and it works. So I think that it's another brilliant solution to something that they acknowledge. Okay, this is definitely something that can happen. So we gotta let the users have the ability to rescue their work, because it's a perfectly human thing and a normal thing that it will happen. They acknowledged it, they addressed it, and they solved it in a very elegant manner. Anyone can understand how this works. It's not complicated, it's super freaking easy. So I really love the split function because it addresses what could be and is a flaw in a way, and it could be like a fatal flaw of a product. By addressing it in this way, they kind of, saved it. All right, so that's the online functionality of the basic functionality of the RoWrite 2 and the RoWrite app in conjunction. Very flexible and something that I really like. Now, what about the offline type of writing? So now I'm logged out of the app, and you can see that we are having a green LED, not a blue one, indication that the device is on, but it is not synchronizing, right? It's not connected. So we are effectively in offline mode. So green LED means offline mode, blue LED means connected and real-time mode. Now I can still write, and you can see it's still blinking while in offline mode, and I'll be able to sync it when I connect. Okay, so this is what I have here, and let's just, I don't know, add another dude here who is pointing at a really big bird, or I don't know, maybe at the sign. He's pointing at the sun, and he's happy about it because there was a lot of bad weather for a long time. So nothing to do with Norway, right? Masterful. And as soon as we log in, we have the blue light here, and it says 1 page not synced. So all the stuff that I've done in offline is going to be synchronized. So now it's synchronizing pages, and there we go. And we have our page here. Now, here's the thing. It actually divided it into a new page, into a separate one. And maybe that's not what I want, right? Because this page and this page, this is supposed to be part of that page here. Well, we do have a merge function. So if I long press on one of the pages, I can enter the multi-selection mode. And this is in the page overview mode. So let's say that I want to select these 2 pages and say, hey, I want to merge them together. And I click merge, and it says, there you go, this is what it looks like. Press OK, and there we go. So now I have the new page is being merged with the previous one, and I am able to do that. So in the page overview, we also have an option of selecting pages. You can select multiple pages, merge them, you can delete them, and you can move them to another notebook. So let's say, for example, move to my other notebook, and that would be it. You can also make a selection and share only the selected pages, and you can share with the with the copy link. You can share as a JPEG, PDF, or PNGs, right? So you're pretty much covered with what you need as far as the page management, sharing, exporting, and all of that kind of stuff goes. One thing I forgot to cover is that when you're in the page edit mode, right, you can also do this in your app. So you can write with your finger. But since I'm using my Lenovo Tab P11 Pro, then I can use also my pen. So I can write here as well. And usually that's what people would show on a review and say, job done, right? Well, not exactly, because if we do have detection of gestures, right? So you can pinch to zoom in, pinch to zoom out, and when you're in the page edit mode, 2 fingers to actually navigate, because 1 finger is used to write. Now, why did I say like, and then you will show this and that's the job done? Well, because the palm rejection is not the best. Well, it's good, but sometimes it mistakes the palm for zoom, and it can zoom or pan or something like that. So the final stuff that I'd like to also show is that you will notice this little bookmark here on this page. And I would like you to also notice there's an option here called Keynotes, right? So now let's flip over to a new page. Okay, click the button, and new page already created in the device. And that's something that I think is a bit of a problem. Why I mentioned it, it's really important that you are in the app itself. So I clicked new page here on the device, but I don't have a new page here. It's just on a device. In order for that to actually register, you need to be in the page edit. When you click, it will add a page and get you there. So that's something that's very, very important, because if you click the page and continued writing, you would continue writing basically nowhere, and it would need to synchronize and all that kind of stuff. Add some important content here. And here he's kind of freaking out because he automatically said keynote added. That's not something that I want, because the keynotes are basically bookmarks in your notebook, and that's something I wanted to kind of demonstrate. You can add it digitally by going to the page view, more options on the 3 dots, and either enable or disable the keynotes. Red bookmark appears here, which is fine. The way it should work when you are in your notebook and you're synchronizing is you have this option here, keynotes. You're supposed to add a check mark there, and it's supposed to notice that, but it didn't, right? So I'm not sure what's going on and why it's not detecting it here. I don't know if I've misplaced where the notebook should be, but it looks like it's normally placed. I've never been able to get that thing to work, so I resort to, just manually going here, adding a keynote and having it like that. So that's something that I wanted to also cover, that you know that you have that functionality as well. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to get it to work. It sometimes does it automatically when I'm writing here, so I'm thinking that some positioning is maybe off, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. I really don't know, but I couldn't get it to work. And you can also set your default brush, right? So I can choose like, okay, maybe I like 3 pixels and opacity 100%, and then you go here, and then that's always going to be my default brush, which is great. And then finally, let's segue into the final thing that I want to cover, which is convert to text feature. We have 12 languages here to choose from. We have Chinese, English, UK and US, Deutsch, French, Dutch, Italian, Spanish, Swami, Dansk, Svensk and Norsk. and Japanese. And of course, you need to kind of download these packs. So these are the languages that you can use for convert to text feature, which is called identify on the device. The way it works is, you've seen a little bit of it, so it works really, really well. So let's say this is my page. This is how it looks like. This is what I wrote, right? So it's very unclear, very messy, very kind of funky. And the feature, as I said, is called identify. So once I press identify, it has managed to recognize really, really nicely. Of course, you can edit if you want to. Now, here's the thing that's really impressive. Let's now go to this page where I'm here. Let's do identify. So it did identifying. It got a little confused with this one, which is fine, but it doesn't actually matter. And we are hooked up with the blue light synchronizing. And now I can continue to write in the notebook. I mean, this is just so freaking cool. Just understood it. And the app will, in real time, convert to text. This is, for me, incredibly impressive. So yeah, the N, he couldn't recognize it. Then I can just tap here, just correct it. Okay, let's add a dot, new line, hide the keyboard, continue writing in real, well, time. I wrote wrong here, so I'll have to figure it out on Relatin, in Relatin. That's my bad, because I wrote badly here. But it's just hugely impressive what this does. This is where you change your languages, but they need to be installed. So only these languages are installed for me, and that's where you change which language you use for identification. So the way it works is not from page edit view. You enter identify, it identifies, you're hooked up, you continue writing, and it just works. Furthermore, if you tap on this little line here, you will have copy and export results of the conversion, and you can basically export the page as a PDF or as a text file. And because it's an Android device, you can share it to your Gmail, Hangouts, Google Drive, or save it directly where you want to. How can I help? Opening Google Drive, don't do that. How can I help? By not interfering. How about that? So yes, you can convert to text in real time, as you've seen. You can convert to text in 12 languages that I've mentioned, and also you can export the converted results as a PDF or as a text file and share further forwards, like from any normal Android app that you would. So that's pretty freaking cool and really, really impressive to have. Furthermore, if you have a screen sharing app, then you can simply cast the screen from your Android device onto a projector or onto a Zoom call or anything like that. And then all of the stuff that you've seen, this is the reason why I was showing the screen here continually, is basically something that you can share on a Zoom call, on a projector, or anything else. So the real world use case scenarios, while they may be limited for what they where they can be used, they're extremely impressive, and it just works really, really well. So let's say classroom or a convention or something like that. As I said, limited use case scenarios, but where they do apply, it really does something extraordinarily cool and really, really well. Another thing to keep in mind is also that if you go to settings and RoWrite device, in the bottom here you will have connection mode, and the connection mode can be private, which is protected by the PIN code that you actually type in, and or a public mode. Now in a public mode, I believe that these sessions can be shared, much like in QuirkLogic and other apps of the same kind of type, which again applies to the classroom, digital classroom classroom of some sorts. So this public mode I haven't tested because I don't have anyone to test it with, so I can't really test it, but from what I've read and what I've seen online, that's basically what it does. You just get a sharing mode and then like a public classroom. I don't know if people can add onto the same page or not. As I said, my knowledge of that functionality is limited, but yeah, you do have these two modes, and I think it's an important one to kind of keep in mind. And that's the RoWrite 2. All right, so that's what the RoWrite 2 is all about, what it can do, what it can't do, how it does, how it looks, and all that kind of stuff. So it's the conclusion time, and we start off as usual with the cons. The first con is obviously the inability to write on both sides of the page, of the physical actual notebook page, because the sensor is built in only on the one side of the, or on the back cover. To me, this seems wasteful and expensive over a longer period of time. Granted, yes, you can flip around the notebook and write forwards and then flip around and then write backwards. So that's something that you can do, but it does mean that the physical notebook and the notes that you take that remain in the physical notebook will also remain flipped, which can be a bit of a hindrance. So yeah. Con number 2 can and will be the necessity to manually turn pages every time you flip a page in a notebook, that you absolutely have to remember to push that button and to flip a page in the app itself. So as I've explained, this is something that most definitely will happen to some people, and it is a con. However, I believe that it has been remedied, as I've shown, with the ability to split the pages and scrubbing the timeline. It makes it really effortless and quick to split a page and continue moving on. Now, depending on if you've forgotten completely and you wrote 10 pages, you can still do it. It's just that it's going to take a little bit more time to actually split it up, but it's still going to be possible to do something like that. So yeah, but definitely that's something that has to be considered as a con. Another con is that, to my knowledge, I haven't found a way how I can identify or convert to text more than one page at a time. I think that it would have been a nice option to be able to convert the whole thing and just export as a PDF. So that's something that maybe they'll add in some of the future app revisions. One thing that you've probably noticed while I was writing in the notebook is that the dot grid line, even though it's pale, unfortunately the dot grid line of the physical notebook doesn't align with the lines or the dot grid matrix or the template on the app itself. So while I may be writing exactly on the lines in the physical notebook, those the written text will not coincide with the lines on the template. I believe that that's something that should be remedied, and it's a missed opportunity, because I do like to have my notes written in such a way that they are nicely and neatly organized. So maybe a calibration of some sort or something like that, but definitely it's doable, but currently we don't have an option to fix that. Another con is also what I talked about, inability to flip around this and kind of write in your lap or anything like that. So it takes a bit of a footprint. It's kind of required that it takes a bit of space and that it's used on a desk. And finally, for me, it's maybe a learning kind of curve, and it's a quick learning curve, but it has to be done in a certain way, and it's the digital notebook in the app itself, how it's organized, those 3 views. So obviously you have the note overview, the page view, and the edit view. And it's a little bit easy to mix the page view and the edit view when you start writing. And it happened to me on more than one occasion that I would just open up, I'm on a page, right, in the app, in the page view, and I start writing, and the device is synced, everything is synced, but I don't get the real-time notes showing on a page. So that's something that's a little bit of a con, but it's not a big one. It's just something that you kind of have to get used to, and something that you have to keep in mind. And now for the pros. It's absolutely beautifully designed, and for something so simple and minimalistic, I think they managed to do a really, really good job. So I love the way it looks, and I love the practicality of it, especially the practicality of the pen, how it is easily usable, and how they solve the problem of always having your pen charged. And it's just a very, very elegant solution and beautifully executed. Even though it has multiple functionalities in the app, I believe that the combination of the built-in tutorials and just the way the whole platform has been designed is that it has been simplified enough so that the learning curve, while still there, it's a very mild one, and you very, very quickly get things, how they work, what they do, and you're up to speed in one day. So you just need to spend a little bit of initial time with this one to test it out, to figure out, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? Make a mistake on purpose and all that kind of stuff, so that you can use the split, so that you can use the merge and all that kind of stuff. And if you do that in day one, you're done. And it's very easy to remember. Some of the things as well, some of the platforms you remember, you have to keep relearning and relearning. And when you need to do that, it's an indication of a bad design, because something doesn't make sense. It's definitely not the case with the Royole RoWrite platform. Once you learn something and you do it once, if it's a mistake or if it's successful, it kind of stays. And that's an indication of a really, really finely honed design and excellent user experience. Real-time synchronization of writing is really precise and very, very stable. Whenever I used it, and for however many hours that I've used it, it never had a problem of any sort. I never had missed strokes, I never had losing a connection or anything like that. It just works, and that's something that I really, really like. And plus, it looks cool and it's very, very usable in the real world. Especially if you combine it with screencasting capabilities, then it just expands it even further. Additionally, real-time conversion to text is really impressive. That's something that I don't think that I've seen on any other platform. And while the use case scenarios for this particular thing, as impressive as it is, I believe the real-world use case scenario is a little bit limited to, classrooms and things like that, and presentations maybe. But even so, it's incredibly powerful and very impressive to see a bit of technology that works like that I'm just writing on my notebook, and on the digital device the typed text is appearing. It's a very cool and a very impressive feature to see. Another positive is real-time word search of your entire notebook. And it's as simple as press search and type for a word, and it's just gonna search for the words. The pen is excellent. It's really comfortable, and you're going back to writing with a pen on paper. Many of the devices are trying to actually get there, and that is something that's probably going to be considered a con by some, but for me it's such an obvious thing. It's a notebook. This is a paper notebook that's able to do all of these things. So I can't fault a paper notebook for being a paper notebook. That's kind of silly. So that's why I'm not mentioning it as a con, because if you're looking for a digital e-note device, then this is not it. This is a regular physical paper notebook that has all of these other functionalities. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. But having that in mind, the pen is an excellent writing experience. It's super high quality. The magnets always snap in place where you want them to be. They're held tight. The cover is magnetic. The cover is held magnetically on the pen, held magnetically on the cover. I mean, everything just works really, really nice. So excellent pen here as well. And finally, extensive exporting features and functionalities, the merging, the splitting, and all that kind of stuff, but more importantly, exporting to MP4 files, so that you are able to create little videos of writing something up, or doodling, or creating even little animations of thought process or things like that. So it's a super useful feature to have, and I really love it a lot. Right, so RoWrite 2. It's a niche within a niche, and as such, it's absolutely guaranteed that it's not going to be for everyone. So that's the first thing to get out of the way. It's a very well designed and built product, and at $130 it's a very reasonably priced device considering what it offers and what it can do. Because don't forget, you can use your own notebooks in this one, provided they are at optimum thickness, which is, I believe, at 6 millimeters. So you are not obligated to purchase their own RoWrite notebooks. You can use your own. As a niche, well-designed and well-produced product, RoWrite 2, what it does very, very well and has extremely powerful and usable features in the real world. True, there aren't that many things to fault it for because it's so laser focused in what it can do. Those same faults, even though there's just a few of them, they're quite difficult to overlook, and I believe that they will be a strong deterrent factor for some users. Now, if those few faults don't affect your real world use case scenario and something that you don't care about, then you should consider yourself very lucky, because then you will be able to fully enjoy this really well thought out and built product. Overall, despite the limitations and the laser focus of the audience that it's meant to be for, I think it's an important product. Definitely RoWrite 2, I think it's an important product because it's trying to do something new, and it's trying to merge the old with the new and a kind of modernize the old. And I believe that it manages to do that quite effortlessly because of the well-designed user experience and the learning curve and all of these things. So if you are used to using your paper notebooks and you don't want to deal with technology too much, you don't want the expense of $500 e-note-taking tablets, and you just want to keep using your paper stuff and just easily take it to the next level, that's what the RoWrite 2 is for. It's not there to replace your Remarkable, it's not there to replace the Books Note Air or anything like that. No, it's meant to do one thing and one thing only: take your physical notebooks to another level and allow you to more easily integrate into the digital world, which is our reality today. And that it does extremely well. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell down below to get notified when new videos on My Deep Guide are coming out. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!